Thanks, Evan. I really appreciate the kind words. In my professional life, I'm a city manager. The city I currently work for, City of Garden City, Kansas, happens to be my hometown. Moved back in 2002, was the assistant city manager for about 6 years, became the city manager in 2008. That better?
Yes.
Apologize. For most of my tenure as city manager, I've been involved in an issue that ironically doesn't have anything to do with the 22 business units or the $115 million budget that I'm responsible for overseeing, but it is important to our community. And without an identifiable person to be involved, those duties, as some people in the audience can attest to, sometimes fall in the city manager's office. So that was my introduction to this issue. Really, my first introduction to what was at the time the latest iteration of Amtrak and Burlington Northern negotiating the terms of Amtrak's presence on the portion of the rail that goes from Newton into Newton, Kansas into New Mexico, was at a summit that I think Evan was responsible for hosting, not unlike this one, that brought together people from Kansas and Colorado, and so kind of exposed the dilemma a little bit, and we began working on that. I didn't prepare everything, but I prepared a little part that's the history. If you'll forgive me, just to familiarize yourself with what has gone on over the past almost 10 years, I'm going to give a short synopsis of what's going on the Southwest Chief. So, at the time, the BNSF line was not a major freight route. The conditions of the rail were deteriorating, which led BNSF to reduce the speed limit on the route from 79 to 60 miles per hour. It was highly probable that the speed could be limited further in some sections to 30 miles per hour, and I think for a time that was the case. This caused concern with Amtrak due to the ability to complete the Chicago to Los Angeles run in 24 hours. Major improvements were needed to restore the overall speed and reliability of the line, as well as the ride quality experienced by Amtrak's passengers. There were also rumors regarding BNSF having an interest in divesting of their route through western Kansas. In January of 2010, BNSF offered to reroute the Southwest Chief to other freight routes, thereby eliminating the Southwest Chief between Newton, Kansas and Lamy, New Mexico. At the time, Amtrak chose to maintain the current service and pay the additional maintenance costs. In 2011, BNSF estimated that the 10-year capital investment needed for Amtrak to preserve the entire 636 miles of the Southwest Chief from Newton to Lamy was $300 million. Garden City officials met with BNSF officials, Kansas Senate President at the time, Steve Morris, and KDOT officials on January 25, 2012 regarding future intentions along the La Junta subdivision. BNSF stated that this line would stay in their ownership following the meeting. Let's put a pin in that particular meeting and we'll come back to it in my later comments. From that early 2012 meeting, the Southwest Chief Rural Rail Partnership was born, and a phased approach to rehabilitate the route was conceived. The partnership includes municipal governments, county governments, other interested passenger rail organizations. The 4 participating cities in Kansas, Newton, Hutchinson, Dodge City, and Garden City. The 4 participating cities from Kansas were Newton, Hutch, Dodge, and Garden. In 2012, Garden City and Dodge City, only because Tiger grants at the time had to come from governmental units, Garden City and Dodge City were unsuccessful co-applicants. We're very successful applicants for transportation improvement grants. Very successful. You can count on one hand the number of times we've applied for a grant that we weren't dead certain we would be highly competitive for. So we're like, Tiger grant, sure, no problem. When's it due? Next week? Good, we'll put it in. Threw it in. I'm fairly certain we were probably the worst application they looked at. So thankfully we didn't waste anybody's time reading it, but it was thrown together and it was summarily dismissed. That grant was for $15 million. That was Tiger Ford. We submitted a second time as just the city of Garden City, only for logistics purposes. There wasn't anything wrong with Dodge City's contribution, but agreed that we'd have one applicant, focus a little more internal staff on the application, learned a little bit from the first time around. That was also unsuccessful. In 2014, we took a different approach. We retained some professional assistants. We could look around at the Tiger grants that gotten completed, and they were productions. I mean, it was you spent the money, got the professional assistants, put together a first-class application, and put together a robust partnership, which we felt we had the skeleton for, but we just didn't have the contents and the push behind it, frankly, the money behind it. And so we put together another application. The local match, this was Tiger 6, and it's 2014 at the time. The local match was $9.3 million, leveraging a request for $12.5 million in funding. This was approved and initially replaced 40 miles of track between Pierceville, Kansas, and Los Angeles, Colorado. The city of Garden City administered that grant. That was also a learning curve. Remember, we don't have a rail department, and administering an FRA grant is not administering a road grant or a wastewater grant or fill in the blank grant for things that cities normally apply for. So because of that, because the project was ongoing, our friends in La Junta, who were part of the partnership on the Colorado side of the border, agreed to be the applicant. We still used the same technique, retained the same consultant. All the players were still the same. They again submitted a grant, $9.2 million against $15.2 million in federal funds. The project replaced an additional 38 miles of track in Kansas and Colorado and replaced 18.5 miles of ties and ballasts in New Mexico. The important part of this grant was that it introduced all three states contributing. In the first round, I believe the state of Kansas may have been the only state department that submitted. Maybe that might be wrong. Colorado may have been in that, but all three were part of Tiger 7. The city of Lamar, Colorado submitted an unsuccessful application in 16. That's Tiger 8. But then the next year, Colfax County, New Mexico submitted Tiger 9, which is, I'm sure, a familiar topic currently. And that had participation from, again, all the parties, all the states, really focused on improvements in the state of New Mexico, and that grant was awarded. To my knowledge, it's the only project that's received 3 Tiger grants in the country. It was an accomplishment that certainly the partnership is proud of, but a realization that, and I'll get back to this again in my subsequent comments, that there's no finish line. I mean, I think a good analogy is a marriage or a relationship. You don't check the box at the altar and say, okay, I did that. You're in it for those types of relationships, and this is certainly a complex one, given all the parties, given the subject matter, and given just the challenges that are in the transportation world altogether. So with the completion of Tiger 9, and we believe there will be the completion of Tiger 9, that will leave only 27 miles still needing replaced between Hutchinson and La Junta, specifically between Pierceville and Howell, which is in my neck of the woods. The four western Kansas cities that are served by this section of rail are Newton, Dodge, and Garden. And I would say that while I'm up here speaking, it's certainly a partnership. All of us are pulling in the same direction. That is key. Our governing bodies, which by now, 8 years later, have completely changed over in every community, to be able to continue to have support behind a topic that may be dramatically unfamiliar to those involved in the decision-making process. I think is a success story. Certainly I'd be remiss if I didn't thank many of you in this room. Some who I probably haven't met in person, but I recognize your name from big email listservs and those types of things. We've advocated for rail preservation and rail expansion in this state. My world happens to be focused on preservation. That doesn't mean I ignore the efforts being made and pay close attention to the expansion of the flyer, and hope we can all realize that someday. I do want to point out, though, if there's a lesson learned, and it gets back to that relationship thing, and it gets back to the 2012 meeting. That was really one that was born out of relationship. Our senator, our state senator, was the Senate president at the time. We visited with him, as we often do, and he was a convener. If any of you knew Steve Morris, if anything, he was a convener. Party didn't matter, subject did, and he was like, well, let's get the players involved. Well, these guys don't like to sit in the same room with each other. And if they do, it's kind of caustic and or really silent. And he's like, well, let's get them in the room. I know some of these guys, we'll get them to talk to the extent they want to talk, and the things that they don't want to talk on, we'll bookmark and continue to follow up until we get some progress. And so that was his nature, and we really tried to model that every step of the way. New issues come up. I would say our reaction to some of the Tiger IX stuff as a rail advocate community didn't surprise me, but it caused me to reflect back on this moment. It's guys, it's like a soap opera. Every Friday you're on a cliffhanger, and we'll get through it. I mean, if you're willing to stay at the table and you're willing to acknowledge that there is a perspective on the other side of the table, then you can get to interest-based bargaining and abandon the tactics of the past, which is positional bargaining, which isn't going to work out. We're not bringing enough chips to the table. The city of Garden City has put about $12,500 into each application. That's not a lot of money. But again, we don't have a department, we don't have resources, but if we pool that with several other partners, a couple dozen maybe, then that's a meaningful local match. I think in all of these local matches, the non-state government, non-BNSF, non-Amtrak portion was about $250,000. Well, I mean, that's a fraction of a $25 million application, but it's a real number. It's got zeros and commas, and that's a good thing. And so we'll continue to work that strategy. And so advocacy is absolutely important. Continue the work. Making your position known. But I think there's room for diplomacy. There's room for an acknowledgement and acceptance that there is no finish line, and there is the goal should not be an it. The goal should be the relationship to work through differences. Because I can assure you, if the Southwest Chief continues for another 130 years approximately, which is how long there's been passenger rail service going over this section of line, that there will continue to be other issues, and we'll need to work through them. And if your partnership is strong enough, and you build a strong enough relationship with all of the players, it supersedes any individual personality. Now I'm not just speaking to personalities that might be outside of this room and making decisions elsewhere. I'm talking about personalities inside this room, including my own. So if we kind of lean in on diplomacy without abandoning the advocacy piece, I think we'll be successful in our efforts to preserve and expand rail service in Kansas. With that, I'm sorry I missed the tenor of most of this meeting, so I want to leave time for questions that you can ask me that will be meaningful to your discussion. Evan acknowledged that I drove in, I literally pulled up 15 minutes ago. We had the Transportation Vision Task Force, which is a legislatively appointed group I have the pleasure of serving on. We hosted them yesterday in Garden City, which didn't work out really good logistically for getting back up here in time, but Mike was there, and some other people were there too. So, but I chose to get away this morning instead of last night to make that work. And for those of you not familiar with high school politics in Western Kansas, this is the hatchet game tonight. tonight. So Dodge City is a great partner, 364 days of the year. Tonight, they're not. So gotta get back to that game. I got 2 kids in high school, and so we're gonna get back and then drive over and sit in the rain and watch a football game in Dodge. Questions about the Southwest Chief? Evan, can I steer this some way to tie into your conversation?
What are the cities, member cities of the Southwest Chief Rural Rail Partnership?
Garden City, Dodge City, Newton, and Hutchinson. La Junta, Colorado, Lamar, Colorado, Lamy, New Mexico. All the cities that have stops between Newton and Albuquerque, not including Albuquerque. And so if I miss one, Los Angeles maybe?
They're not.
Trinidad.
Yeah.
Las Vegas, Lady.
Yeah, there you go. All right, thank you.
If I understand you correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you said there's only 27 miles that have not been redone or rehabilitated on the line. And is that why, or one of the reasons why they're proposing this bus hop link?
The articulated reason from Amtrak for not or for being reluctant to participate in Tiger Line, which again I think we've kind of worked through that at the moment, is PTC and a change in focus or an intensity of focus on those devices on passenger rail routes. I think that has implications again for all long distance passenger rail, and that doesn't isolate the Southwest Chief. And so, being able to talk with Congress about okay, that's the position with this particular route, but play this out. What's this mean in California? What's this mean in other long distance passenger rail areas? And so, if you give yourself the opportunity to call enough of a timeout, you can sort of be strategic around that or diplomatic around that discussion. Not everybody took that approach. Not everybody in the Southwest Chief Rural Rail Partnership took that approach, but we eventually got there and got the people to the table, and I think have a workable solution. Just as an update, as I saw on the agenda, to update on the Front Range Commission. I don't really know squat about the Front Range Commission. I know Rick Klein in La Junta, who's the city manager over there, and he's kind of, I play point guard for the group over in Kansas, and he plays point guard for the group over in Colorado. He's shaped much more like a point guard, so he's probably more effective. I said, Rick, hey, give me an update of what's going on. He's like, well, that's the group that's the official applicant for the Chrissy grant, and I'm aware of that. So we've got an application in place that will accomplish the PTC expectations over this section of line, which should remove the barrier in our mind. Now, if there be something else that comes up, we're no longer surprised by anything, but I think that addresses the issue of the day and keeps the family at the table.
You mentioned the 2012 meeting with BNSF about retention of the line. Are they still considering hanging on to it?
Yeah, so great question. I appreciate that. So one of the things that's really been a win, a big win, and for those of you in other communities talking about rail investment, passenger rail is important. It's important to you. You wouldn't be in this room if it wasn't. But there's rail that's important to other folks too, and it brings in a new conversation. Frankly, it throws a larger umbrella over the topic of rail, and that's great. We have a very active section of rail now. In fact, we were one of 2 transload facilities that the state of Kansas helped underwrite the expenses for. We now have just short of 800 acres of industrial park transload. It is full at the moment with wind turbine components. But also probably the largest grain hauler in North America, in and out of there, a lot of testimony given yesterday at our statewide transportation task force meeting about the importance of rail, as was done in Newton. And I think that's a great onboarding topic to get to passenger rail. Sometimes maybe you aren't in the right environment to talk about rail and lead with passenger rail. You can lead with economic development. You can lead in economic development without any public discussion, right? And that's like saying quality of life, it's just automatic win. And then through that you say, and then an ancillary benefit can be the preservation of passenger rail, or just think what we can do with the expansion of passenger rail, depending on which of these two routes you're talking about, or two that you're talking about.
BNSF have any service in backhaul for freights like the grain elevators?
Yes, they do. Wind River Grain is the group I was talking about. They're a really good partner with Burlington Northern. Because of that relationship, we've been able to, we know who to talk to on a lot of topics with respect to these issues. The Conestoga is an ethanol producer. They co-located there and kind of partnered on their portion of rail. And then from that, the city and county acquired some acreage, which ultimately became a wind component, 50 acres of transportation logistics field for a group that had signed some contracts for wind turbines. That was going to be a short-term, a 2 or 3 year thing. They've now been there 7 years. They now occupy 700 acres. They deliver wind components within a 600-mile radius of Garden City. And we now have a dairy processor who, while they don't send out their dry powder product on rail, that was their interest. One of the reasons they located in proximity to those other industries, and so that they could work out rail logistics should the volume get up to the point where empty containers, because it's a specialized container, empty containers can get back to that site. Right now, the only barrier was there's no empty container with which to put their product in, and so they truck to a mega outlet like Kansas City, and then it hops on rail, and then it goes right past Garden City again on its way to the Pacific Ocean. So ideally, we reach a critical mass, and we think we're near those numbers. So that's really exciting. We have another development prospect, hopefully that'll be announced within the next couple of weeks, and they're interested as well in hopping on that section of rail too. So huge, great question, huge win. The whole idea of BNSF saying there's no traffic here, why would we continue to invest? The tune has changed 8 years later. One more question? Okay.
When you mentioned Colorado a minute ago, it made me wonder if are there some serious attempts in Colorado to extend or lengthen the Southwest Chief route, say from La Junta West to pick up Pueblo and then go south to Trinidad?
I think I'm not really well versed in what's going on in Colorado, but I do know that there's discussions up along the Front Range. I think maybe their targets are a little bit further north for where they might like to tie in or connect and bring people to the chief, or bring people that are coming off the chief back up to other lines or other destinations. But there is my understanding of pretty well organized. They're pretty coordinated with the State Department of Transportation there. The passenger rail group looking at not just the chief, but also expansion opportunities. Thank you very much for having me.